I've never been to OSF before, though it is legend in the theater world. And I can tell you as an early career director that it is on the top of the bucket list for many theater artists to be here and to work. And then to be here in this environment and see the machine that it is, I fully recognize that it probably is not. It is not possible without the help of people like yourselves. So I just wanted to thank you for all that you do for this company. I also wanted to thank you for not booing me when you found out that the assistant director would be up here and not Kent Gash, whose vision I will attempt to share with you today. I wanted to start by just briefly talking about my history with this particular play and sort of the context in which I've encountered it in the past. I've seen The Comedy of Errors 3 times, and I've read it, I believe, twice when I was forced to in school. And in case you couldn't tell that, it was like one of those things that, because it just wasn't one of my favorite plays. I think that it is his shortest play, and it is one of the only 2 plays, along with The Tempest, which you will see later this year, that sort of adheres to Aristotle's unities, which is the unity of action, which means that there is one central through line, one plot, and very little to no subplot. There's a unity of place, which it happens all in one location and doesn't ask you to bend your mind geographically in any way. And that it is unity of time, which means it happens within a 24-hour period. Time, as they'll tell you, is the most often said word in Shakespearean plays and becomes a big character in this play for us because, and I think that sort of on the page, the way that that looks, this short play, which is a nice, tidy farce, you know, it's well constructed and put together. It sort of lends itself, I think, to productions that will approach it with humor from the lowest common denominator. Lots of shtick, lots of pun, lots of just sort of slapstick, you know, make you laugh a few times, send you on your way, thank you very much. That's what does not appeal to me about, that kind of work doesn't appeal to me. And it wasn't until I was asked so wonderfully to be a part of this production and in Kent Gash's vision to set it in the Harlem Renaissance that I really began to dive into the depths of this play. I think that as you start to read it in a different, I will get to that in a second, but I just wanted to plant the seed, that Antipholus at one point in a play, and I actually have my notes here because I know that I'll butcher the second half of it. This is a play very much about, for me, about the search for oneself. Very interesting to hear about the play, Sinus in Brewster's Windows, about the authentic self. I think here, I'm sure that you all know the plot. There's a set of twins separated almost at birth, long-lost families, blah, blah, blah. You all know it. At the end of Act 1, Scene 2, Antipholus has a line that says, "I to the world am like a drop of water, that in an ocean seeks another drop, who, falling there to find his fellow forth, unseen, inquisitive, confounds himself. So I, to find a mother and a brother, in quest of them, unhappy, lose myself." And that's just a little nugget of that play that it never resonated with me within the context of my first experiences with it, when seeing it, when the Dromios and everyone else is played with a little bit of just like fools and sort of, again, lowest common denominator type of humor. There are moments like that, which I think in this instance, and I think it's traditionally done, where one actor plays both the roles, where he is searching for his brother, but quite literally searching for himself. So it is echoed in the casting as well. And he's off. Now, when you put that in the context of the Harlem Renaissance, something that I didn't know much about when I came here for this production, I knew like just enough to get me in trouble in a conversation. You know, that thing of I knew some of the artists of the period, I knew some of the times, but I wasn't quite sure where in history it sort of fell. I think that for me, and I think for everybody, I reflect back on the period of American slavery as just the worst and darkest blemish on our country's history. And one of the worst characteristics for me about that was the separation of families, that husbands were sold from wives, mothers and fathers were sold from their children, brothers and sisters parted from their siblings, and so on and so forth. So you have, for the entire existence of millions of people, that you exist in a place where you're always, something's missing. You're not whole. And in a time where it wasn't like you could get on Facebook and try to search for whoever it is you're longing for. They go through generations never finding anybody. 1865, the Civil War ends and things happen. We get to the Great Migration, which this period, we've sort of nailed it right at around 1929. This is so then after the First World War, which is the first time that African Americans were asked to go off and fight for the United States of America. They did fight in the Civil War, but they were not accepted. The regiments weren't integrated like they were in World War I. Asked to come back to a country where the freedom doesn't exist, and asked to take their seat back again in a subservient culture and class. And that wasn't happening anymore. It just wasn't. And it's prior to the Great Depression, which is where sort of the end of that Gatsby period for everybody. So it exists in this moment of time where the explosion of culture and cultural expression, artistic expression happens. And Kent speaks very eloquently to there are times when they're walking down the street and somebody looks familiar to you. The possibility of somebody being one of your relatives, your cousin, your sister, your brother, something. We're 70 years removed, but those times didn't go away, so there is that constant search for self. That is a context in which gets me very excited about this play. I to the world am like a drop of water that in an ocean seeks another drop. You know, that is something that to me is very moving, touching. It excites me about this play. And one of the other things about the Harlem Renaissance that I find very exciting is that it was an explosion of human expression. For the first time artistically, they were allowed to express themselves, and they were going to do it no matter what. There were artists that no longer were they going to come back and do minstrel shows and blackface and do those things. There are artists of the time in the culture who come out and explode and give their experience. And that has allowed us to explore within the context of this play some wonderful dancing and music and just cross-pollination of different art forms. And I think that makes for some very intriguing theater. Along with all of that, there is an amazing company of actors who are taking this on and really digging deep into those hidden treasures to try to find some nuance and depth in that. I think one of my favorite things that I am watching, to just go back briefly, one of the things that I like least about a production of this is when the Dromios, the Antipha's, are played as fools. And here you have, I'm sure you're familiar with Rodney Gardner playing the Dromios, who is doing it with such integrity and distinction, finding incredible nuance in his performance, and giving real depth to what it means to be in the service of someone, because they are in the text slaves. We've taken great care not to have that word come, and we go to knaves, which because all of you will have the question, what is a world post-slavery where people keep slaves? And we've taken great care to address that question. I hope that you, when you come watch it, that you will sort of see that we've taken great care into finding the relevant parts of that relationship. And how Rodney approaches it. Toby Wyndham is a first-time OSF company member who is an amazing antipholist. The rest of the company is great, but the chemistry between those two is quite rewarding. And I will tell you that there's a moment in this play that is happening that is something that I have never seen before. I've never seen an actor pull off something like this, nor do I think I will see it again. And I'll just sort of leave it as a teaser for you because I don't want to be spoiler alert, but I think when we arrived at this, it's sort of like you watch with amazement. It's like, is this happening? And it's like, it is happening. And then eventually you get over what's happening, you start, or how this is being done, and then you start to pay attention to what is being done. And it's very rewarding. We're going to shoot out of the cannon. 90 minutes is our target shot. And because I think that the play wants to live somewhere in there, Kent thinks, I'm just sort of speaking, sorry, like I have a say in this thing, in which I don't. But I do think, and I shared with you a little bit about my history with the play because I wanted to try and offer up a little bit of credibility to the praise that I give to this production, because for the first time in my life, I'm enjoying this play every single day, to be in the room with this text of a Shakespeare play that I wanted to dismiss. And I think that I've learned a huge lesson, artistic lesson, about how I need to be open to these works, to find a way into it. I'm not one who thinks that every Shakespeare play needs to be updated or have a concept to be relevant. These plays are relevant no matter if they live in the time they're written or wherever they are, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Neither does OSF think that they have to be updated, by the way. I just think that this is an opportunity, one of those opportunities where you can give context to a play that really serves to unearth some of its treasures that may not have been apparent before. And for me personally, I'm finding myself enjoying this play greatly, and I hope that all of you will as well.